Alright, we are on the PTR server, and Meta Eira unfortunately brings an unreasonable amount of power creep with her. She is so stacked to the brim in PvE and in PvP, and the most unfortunate thing is, she is a keepsake Esper. So her S1 attacks all enemies, damage is equals to 50% of attack. The fewer the enemies, the greater the damage. Enemy AP minus 6%, while Prima is active for every 5 stacks of cadence. This ability hits 1 extra time. While Secondo is active, after using this ability, Eira gains 25% AP plus an extra 5% for every 5 stacks of cadence. So her S1 can do upwards of 50 times 5, which means that's 250% AoE damage on her S1 alone. And also, if there's only one enemy, you're going to be doing more damage. I think it's about 2 times more damage. So if there's one enemy, you do 500 damage. Now her passive will trigger based on her positioning. If you put her in the front spot, she gains Prima. If she's not in the first slot, she gains Secondo. And each time an ally casts basic ability, it does not matter if it's active turns or outside of their turns. Even Avatar procs can work. She gains 1 stack of cadence and reduces the cooldown of her S3 by 1 turn. So Prima is her basic ability plus 30% damage, while Secondo is all allies basic ability plus 30% damage. And also this one is very important, the carrier is immune to damage until they're the last one standing or after taking 50 hits. This is extremely busted in PvP, which I'll show you in a bit. Cadence is just a buffless buff. It does not give you any effect except for the skills itself. It can stack up 20 times, and then this is the most broken part. So this ability can only be cast if you have the Secondo buff, which means you can only cast it if you don't have her at the first slot. And then attacks all enemies, damage is equals to 240% of attack. She has max stacks. In PvP, she ignores defense and deals up to 300% extra damage to enemies with higher max HP. So it's kind of like Changji in a bit. The higher the max HP, the more damage she does. 300% ignore defense in PvP is absolutely ridiculous. You're just gonna one-shot everyone. In PvE, calls in all teammates to assist with their basic abilities. That's also very busted, but right now it's bugged where it doesn't work. And then if cadence is not at max stacks, she increases all allies AP by 30%. It also has a passive skill. While Prima is active, attacks deal extra true damage, which is equal to 2% of the target's max HP up to 100% of the attack. It has a 5-turn cooldown. Her captain ability is 40% universal. Her divinate is also one of the most broken divinate in the game. Final damage of allies basic abilities plus 15%. That is absolutely ridiculous. And her resonance is also absolutely busted. R1 is just extra stats, which is also going to be very important because she is a DPS. And then R2 is when any unit casts basic abilities, she gains 1 extra stack of cadence and reduces her cooldown of her S3 by a further 1 turn. So you get 2 stacks of cadence and reduce the cooldown of your S3 by 2 turns. R4 is a new effect is added to Prima after casting basic ability. Cast it 1 extra time. This cannot trigger repeatedly in succession. So you can cast her S1 10 times, which means you do about 1000% damage if you put her in slot 1. And then also a second effect for Secondo. When an ally casts a basic ability, 50% chance they will cast it 1 extra time. Yeah, this is absolutely broken R4. R6 is also very broken for PvP. At the start of combat, grants all allies Brisingament's Watch for 2 turns. Brisingament's Watch can't be debuffed at the end of an ally's turn. The carrier's AP plus 15%. This is not just an ally's turn, by the way. It's an ally action, so if you do an assist, you gain a further 15%. Her most important resonance is going to be her R4, which is really unfortunate. Alright, let's do a mini showcase of her in Forbiter. Now, like I mentioned, her passive is really easy to stack up because you don't need to cast your basic ability during active turns. It can be Feng Shun, spamming his S1, that's also going to add 1 stack to your Eira. I have absolutely garbage relics on my PTR account. She's not really doing a lot, but if you look at Lapis's damage and Feng Shun's damage, again, my relics are absolutely trash on those two. They're doing pretty decent, especially when this team has no disease debuff or sleep unit. Because Eira not only is a really strong DPS, she's also a really strong support as well. If you put her not in the slot 1 and you gain the Secondo buff, all of your allies gain 30% basic ability damage. So that's going to be very strong for Elif. You can probably even use Jingwei in this team. And Feng Shun as well, obviously, because he can spam the S1 a lot of times. So I think her best team is going to be either with Feng Shun plus Elif. Basically, you just want to have a team that can spam the S1 as much as possible. You can probably even run her with Sloan because when she casts her S3, then she's going to call in Sloan for assist. And Sloan has one of the highest S1 damage in the game, right? Because whenever she S1, she will follow up with her passive. You can also run her with Shen Pin. But right now, her S3 is going to be bugged. Even though you have maximum stacks of cadence, you're not going to be calling your allies for assist. Now, as you can see right here, she's going to be taking 0 damage because of the Secondo buff. As long as she's not the only one in the battlefield, she's going to take 0 damage or until she takes 50 hits, which most of the time will not happen in a run. So you pretty much cannot die with her if you put her in the second slot until the rest of your team dies. Alright, so as you can see right now, my Meta Eira has 20 stacks of cadence, but when she casts her S3, which again, if you run her with Feng Shun, she pretty much has no cooldown on her S3. She should be calling all allies for assist, but right now it's bugged, so she doesn't call an ally for assist. So for now, in PvE, you pretty much only run her for the ability damage increase. Her S3 will only do 240% damage, which is not a lot, but once they fix this bug, she's going to be absolutely broken. Now in PvE, you mostly just want to run her in the second slot because you get so much more out of her passive Secondo buff rather than the Prima buff. But if she's the only DPS in the team, what you can do is you can run her in the slot 1. Her S1 will do 5 hits whenever you have maximum stacks of cadence. You can run her on Avatar Asset because when she procs it, she will cast her S1 5 times. Now if you run her in slot 1, she will not be using her S3 at all because her S3 will only unlock if you have the Secondo buff. And the only way you can get the Secondo buff is if you don't run her in slot 1. So again, most of the time you're going to be running her in slot 2 and above. There are situations where you can run her in slot 1 if you want her to be the main DPS in the team. Because then her S1 will do 5 hits, which I think it's going to be 500% damage if you hit one enemy. And if you have her at R4, then she's going to do 10 hits with her S1, which is absolutely ridiculous. Alright, so I have 20 stacks of cadence already. Alright, so she procs a counter, she hits 5 times. And whenever she gets a turn, she also does 5 hits. And each of those 5 hits will then proc Feng Shun's additional damage on his March Wind effect. Whenever you do damage with your S1, whether it be your allies or Feng Shun himself, you're going to be doing more damage based on the enemy's max HP, which is capped by your attack and crit damage. So yeah, there's going to be multiple ways where you can run her in PvE. But again, most of the time you're going to be running her in second slot just to get that Secondo buff and start spamming her S3 and also boost your allies' ability damage by 30%. Alright, let's take a look at her in PvP. I'm up against an R6 Jinchu with Chu Yao's buff. My relic on her is absolutely trash, by the way. I'll show you in a bit. But I'm going to be running Ana and Feng Shun in the same team because they can spam S1. Ana can counter attack, and whenever Ana counter attacks, Feng Shun will also follow up with his S1 as well. So basically with Meta Eira, you just want to be running her in teams that can spam S1 and survive as long as possible. Because once you get max stacks of cadence, your S3 is just going to one-shot the enemy team no matter what. Unless it's Ana. Because Ana can mitigate 100% incoming damage, right? So unless it's Ana, you're just going to be one-shot anyone. Even if you don't crit. Because you're doing 300% of ignore defense. That is absolutely ridiculous. Alright, so Meta Eira has 20 stacks of cadence. Once she gets a turn, right here, boom, she one-shots everyone. Look at that. That's Jinchu R6 with Chu Yao's buff. And she just one-shots him. Here's my relics on her. It's absolutely garbage. I'm using the war set with no crit rate, no crit damage. What makes her absolutely broken in PvP is that if you don't kill off her team, she basically cannot die, right? Unless you do 50 hits on her, which again, most of the time will not happen. So you have to kill off her team in order to kill her off. And if you don't kill her fast enough and she gets 20 stacks of cadence, she's just going to one-shot your team if you don't have any form of 100% damage mitigation like Ana. Right here, 20 stacks, boom, one shot. She's just like a ticking time bomb. Once you get her to 20 stacks, she's just going to one-shot the entire team. So yeah, that's about it for Meta Eira. I forgot to show you her stats. These are her level 70 stats. A really high attack, decent amount of HP. Rival Rune is using the War set. Really high attack as well. Her HP does not matter that much because if you put her not in the first slot, she basically cannot die, right? This is definitely the most broken meta as per they have released so far. And the unfortunate thing is, her R4 is also absolutely broken as well. The score that you can get from R4 Eira versus an R3 or below is going to be massive. I'm not gonna lie, this is looking very grim for the game because they are pivoting towards meta Espers being absolutely broken as hell. And the only way you can get this meta Espers is by spending. You cannot spend your wish stones on them. You cannot get them from gold records. You can only get them if you spend money on keepsakes. So yeah, it's looking really bad. That's about it. Ciao.